morning. Doing good.
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Doing well. Doing well. Does anybody have any questions before we hop into today's training?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Fabulous. Then today, what we're going to cover is what I call ACE the appraisals. So every time I have a listing, I make it a point to be there for the appraisal, or at least meet up with the appraiser at the beginning of the appraisal. Number one is oftentimes our appraisers have questions about the property. So sometimes they want to know how long ago was it updated? What updates have been done, when was it done? So they might have questions like that. They may have questions if the property is solar, is it owned, is it leased? So oftentimes the appraisers do have questions. When I meet the appraiser there, I try to stay out of their way as much as possible. So I don't generally follow them around. I just make myself available in case they do have questions or need something. In addition to that, I show up with a packet that helps me get what I want for the appraised value. Obviously, the appraisers aren't going to misappraise a property. However, they may look at it differently than I do, or they may miss something if I don't provide them with a packet. So I want to do everything in my seller's favor in order to ensure that the appraisal is going to come in at contract price. The only time I don't do this when I have a listing is if there is no appraisal contingency in place, or if there's an appraisal gap in there that I am sure would cover any sort of downfall that the appraisal, if the appraisal were to come in short. And why is it important that the property appraises? It's important because the buyer generally, number one, has an appraisal contingency in place, which allows them to cancel if the appraisal comes in low. And if the appraisal comes in low and they have a loan on the property, the lender is only going to lend money based on either the contract price or the appraised value, whichever is lower. So if I'm in contract at $600,000 and they're going to put 10% down, meaning they're going to come in with $60,000, if the appraisal comes in at $580,000, now the lender's only going to loan based on that $580,000 instead of the $600,000. So my buyer, or the buyer, is going to want to come in and try to negotiate or renegotiate that contract based on that appraised value. So that's why that is important. Another thing that you always want to make sure is done before the appraiser gets there is make sure you have all of your smoke detectors and your carbon monoxide detectors installed, and that the water heater is double strapped. So the property should have a smoke detector in each bedroom, and then a carbon monoxide and a smoke detector in the hallway leading to the bedrooms, and on each level if it's more than one story. So you need one on each level if it's more than one story. Even if there's no bedrooms on the bottom level, you still need a carbon monoxide and that smoke detector on that bottom level. The only exception to that is the only time smoke detectors are always required. A carbon monoxide, you can get exempt from that requirement if the property does not have an attached garage, it does not have any gas on the property, like gas heat, gas stove, gas anything, and it has no fireplace. So if it has all three of those in place, no fireplace, it has no gas utilities to the property, whether it's propane or natural gas, and a detached garage, then you are exempt from carbon monoxide. Those are the things that produce carbon monoxide: fireplaces, garages, and gas appliances. So that would make you exempt. So I always make sure that stuff is taken care of on my seller property questionnaire that I send out to them, that form that we talked about in the listing information. That one asks the sellers, as well as the email templates that I have. Those also talk about it to the sellers to make sure they double check that those are done before we hit the market. And if they aren't, to make sure they get them done. And if they need help getting that done, to reach out to me, that I can either install them myself or get somebody to install them for my sellers. So those are the things that I check for before the appraisal, and then I put together this appraisal packet. Okay. So I always meet the appraiser there for the listing. For a buyer transaction, I'm not as concerned unless I have come in with an offer that has an appraisal guarantee, and I don't want my buyers to have to come out of pocket more money than what they have to for the down payment. So oftentimes we'll write an offer, which will be like, hey, we're going to offer 650,000 and we're good to go as long as it appraises for 630,000, meaning that my buyers are going to cover that gap. If it comes in at 630, they're still going to purchase it at 650, which means they're going to come in with an additional $20,000 down. Then you better believe that I'm going to make sure that that appraisal packet gets delivered to the appraiser to build my case for that contract price. Any questions before we dive into what goes into my appraisal packet?
So how you said they get exempt from the carbon monoxide, I think. Is you said no fireplace, no gas utilities, and detached garage. Do they have to have all three of those?
All three.
Okay.
All three. So it's very few properties ever qualify for that exemption. And it's not like you have to file for an exemption or anything. Just when the appraiser's there, you just point out, oh, if they say, oh, where's the carbon monoxide? You say it's not required. There's no gas utilities, there's no fireplace, and the garage is detached, or there is no garage. And then they'll be like, oh, cool, no problem. Right. So you have to get an exemption or anything. You just let them know that it's not necessary.
Okay. And then whether you're the seller agent or the buyer's agent, you're still showing up for the appraisal no matter what? Or...
I show up for the appraisal on the listing side if it's my listing. Almost no matter what. The only time I wouldn't show up is if there was no appraisal contingency in place or there was a huge appraisal gap negotiated with the buyer that was in contract on my listing where I wasn't worried about it, then I might not show up. And then on the buyer side, I only show up for the appraisal if I don't want my buyer to come out of pocket more money. So if I think the deal is hinging on that appraisal coming in at value, right? If the seller, I'm pretty sure the seller's not going to negotiate down, or my buyer has committed to pay money above the appraised value, then I'm usually there for the appraisal for the buyer as well. But for my regular buyers, I don't show up for the appraisal.
Okay.
Yep. It's generally in their favor if it doesn't appraise, because we're going to renegotiate it down to that appraised value in most cases, if that appraisal comes in low. So.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
All right. So I put together a appraisal packet. In my appraisal packet, I always include a copy of the purchase contract and any counter offers, because I have had appraisers show up before and appraise the property based on the contract that they had a copy of, which was not the final selling price of the property. And why is that important? Because oftentimes appraisers are going to work to get to that purchase price on the contract, but they're not going to appraise it significantly over that, even if the value of the property is significantly over, because like a couple $1,000s here or there, they'll appraise, but oftentimes it's not significantly, because it raises red flags to the lender. If we're in contract at 600 and the appraiser comes in at 650, then our lender and our underwriter is going to be like, oh, red flag, what's going on with this property? Why are we in contract so much lower than what actually market value is? Because they're going to deem that appraisal market value. So oftentimes appraisers are going to come in pretty close to that contract price if the value's there, even if it's well over, or they'll come in below it based on wherever they calculate that value out to be. So I always include a copy of the contract and any counter offers. I include this appraisal information and then copies of the comps that I'll show you here in a second. So in my appraisal packet, I highlight and let me share the screen. I'm slow today. Share screen. All right. So here is the appraisal document that I assemble together. I include this in an envelope with a copy of that purchase contract, this information, and the comps. So I go in just like I would run a CMA to list a property or for a buyer to purchase it. And I'm going to pull the comps that help me to justify the value of the property that we're in contract on. Okay. I'm not going to shy away from properties that may have closed lower than my property that don't help my value. I'm going to throw that one in there as well. And I'll show you here in a second why, but I should throw that in there as well to show why it's not a good comp to my property. So on the top of this appraisal information, I include the address, the purchase price, and if I received multiple offers, I put in multiple offers received and whether they were all at or above asking, and the total number of offers, unless I just got 2, which is still multiple offers. If I only got 2, I would just say multiple offers received at or above asking, and I wouldn't put how many there. But if I got more than that, like on Heritage, I ended up with 6 offers. I'm going to put that in there that I got 6 offers in hand so that the appraiser knows that, hey, this price is justified because we had multiple offers going into it. I put a little synopsis down here about the offers if necessary, or if I think it'll help. So like on this one, I just put, we received 6 offers all around the same price, put it into contract the first week on the market. The buyers failed to perform. We put it right back into contract with another buyer from the original 6 without putting it back on the market, right? So this one had fallen out of contract. We put it back into contract with one of those original buyers. So I'm just justifying here like, hey, we're in contract at this, and like there's a lot of desire for this property. The next section that I do is I do a features section, and I've had appraisers open this. I hate when appraisers look at my packet while I'm standing there with them because they tear it apart and they're like, well, we don't care about that, and we don't care about that, and we don't care about that. And I don't really care what they care about and what they don't. I'm not the appraiser. I'm just trying to point out everything that might be beneficial to the property. So I point out that, hey, it's 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, because sometimes the information the appraisers look at might be wrong. That it has a bonus room. This one had a bonus room. I misspelled plumbed. Extra room pre-plumbed for half bath. So I'm pointing that out because that may not be obvious to the naked eye as they're walking through the property that the closet in the hallway was already pre-plumbed for a half bathroom. It's 2,100 square feet. It has a 2-car garage, the finished garage with epoxy floors, right? I'm going to point out that, hey, this property is in really good condition, right? It's got a finished garage. It's not open studs. It's got epoxy floors. The lot is at 5,597 square feet. It has a tile roof, paid for solar, reduces PG&E bill to $100 per month. So I put that in there. I've got a copy of the true-up bills to justify that if anybody ever needed them. And I always point out whether the solar is paid for or leased. I pointed out that it had a tankless water heater, a water filtration system, that the front and backyards were both landscaped, that the front yard had a drought tolerant landscaping, that there was a shed in the backyard. There's a large patio in the backyard, laminate wood floors throughout I did really bad on my typing on this one. MAJOR. ITY. Majority of the common areas and bathrooms, right? We've got hard floors throughout the home. Port location, updated cabinets and bathrooms and kitchen, laundry and halls. They had cabinets in laundry room and hallways as well. Upgraded granite countertops, custom bar in the great room, upgraded ceiling fans throughout, upgraded carpet, neutral paint colors, and great room concept. So does everybody see how I'm just kind of putting together all the features of the property? Anything that might make it desirable to a seller or to a buyer, whether it adds value or not. Okay. Then I do a summary of the property. So here is my summary. I always do a kind of a summary of the actual house itself. So on this one, I just put the subject property is a highly desired single-story home located at the curve in the road, just a couple blocks from Veterans Park, Hall Park, and the Dixon Fairgrounds. The home is located in an area of Dixon where homes are highly desired due to age and proximity to the Air Force Base. We find that homes in this area sell quickly. The home is placed at the front of the lot, making for a sizable backyard area that is landscaped and ready for use. The home is a single story and 2,100 square feet, which includes 3 good-sized bedrooms and a large flex space. We received 6 offers in the initial on-market period and continued to get calls for showings even after the property had been taken off the market, right? So I'm just building my case, and I'll show you 2 examples of this appraisal packet that I do. The next paragraph, I just summarize the comps that I have picked for the property or the comparable properties. So I've included comps for the property based on location and similar in size, location, and age. All comps have closed in the past 3 months and are located within a half mile. Due to the current market, not many properties have sold in the recent months. Most properties are smaller, closer to 1,900 square feet or smaller. We have seen a shift in the market over the past couple of months, with several properties receiving multiple offers and a lot more buyer activity. We find that single-story homes, especially in this area, draw more buyers, right? So I'm just continuing to build my case with what I want for the value on this property. Please let me know if you have any questions or concerns regarding the appraisal or home. Have a great day. I always include my contact information. And then I include my comparables section. Any questions about that little summary paragraph that I put together before I move on to comparables?
No.
All right. Then I move on to comparables. So I hand pick comparables. This is why I should not do things late at night. 1270 Princeton Way, Dixon. I put what date it sold for. So remember, on appraisals, they're really looking at sold properties specifically. They may throw some properties that are under contract, but for the most part, they want sold properties to justify the value. That's what it's going to be at. So I'm going to put the date that it sold and the sales price. The property is located in the same area as the subject property. The home is slightly smaller than the subject property with only 2 bedrooms, no option for an extra half bathroom, and no flex room. Both homes were similar in updates and upgrades, although this home did not have paid for solar, water filtration system, landscape backyard, or oversized patio. So I'm just comparing the properties, right? Who's bigger, who's smaller, who's nicer, what features did the subject property have, meaning the property that he's appraising, versus this property. I'm trying to help him do his job and make it easy. Okay. The next one was the other one on Princeton Way, sold in January for $624,950. This property is located in the same area as the subject property. The home is also slightly larger than the subject property, both having 3 bedrooms. This home had no option for an extra half bathroom and no flex room. Both homes were similar in updates and upgrades, although this home did not have paid for solar, a water filtration system, landscape backyard, or oversized back patio. Right. So oftentimes these are newer homes. Oftentimes when newer homes are built, they have like a little 4x4 patio section that you step out on, where ours had a big patio that had been added. So I always point out those comparisons. The next one, gold. This property is located in the neighborhood across from the subject property, right? So I'm always building my case and talking about where they're located, whether it's in the same neighborhood, whether it's in a different neighborhood. And then I'm going to build my case for, hey, it's in a different neighborhood, but here's why it's a good comp, right? The neighborhood is similar in composition of homes, and this home was built the same year as the subject property. The home is slightly smaller than the subject property, with an extra bedroom squeezed into a smaller footprint and no flex room. Both homes were similar in updates and upgrades, although this home did not have paid for solar. It was leased, nor did this home have the upgraded carpets in the bedrooms. Both homes have landscape yards and similar patio sizes, although this property does have a patio cover, right? So this one sold for more than what we were in contract for. And I'm pointing out that not just the positives and but the negatives as well. So this one is slightly larger, and this property also had a patio cover. So I'm just pointing that out, that, hey, that's going to add value in your eyes because it's got a patio cover. So we're going to subtract value off that 638. I'm not worried because I'm just aiming for 600. Then I go into Columbia, which sold for $585. This home is the same floor plan. So right, this one's $15,000 less than what the subject property was in contract for, and it's the same floor plan. So I want to make sure to include this one because the appraiser is going to look at it. The home has the same floor plan as the subject property. The subject property had far superior upgrades, as this home had carpet throughout the common areas, builder grade cabinets and countertops, unfinished garage, and no landscaping in the backyard. In addition, this home backs the main ingress and egress road for the neighborhood, making it less desirable, right? So I'm building my case at why this one sold for $585 and why ours is going to sell for $600,000. I always aim for at least 3 comparables, but I'm going to try to work my way up to 5 in most cases because I really want to justify the value. The next one I pulled up was the one on Baylor, and this property is located in the same area as the subject property. The home is also slightly larger than the subject property, both having 3 bedrooms. This home is 2 stories, which we find has a smaller buyer pool than single-story properties. This home also has a flex room, the same as the subject property. This home is slightly older than the subject property and only has 1 year left on the builder's warranty, where should say whereas the subject property still has a few years left. The subject property is superior in upgrades, as this home did not have upgraded cabinets or countertops. It had builder grade carpet in the main living spaces and bedrooms, as well as much smaller yard, although both were landscaped. This home was also missing the paid for solar and the water filtration system. So does everybody see how I draw those comparables out and compare the properties?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Right? We get to pretend to be appraisers, but I never assign value to it. I'm just trying to justify like, hey, this one's lower. And why did it sell lower? Why would mine be worth 10,000 more? Why would our property be worth 15,000 more? Right? So I'm always trying to justify that. And then I include the appraiser's 1-page report from Barry's with these properties in it. So I always include the 1-page appraiser's report for the subject property and then any comparables that I've pulled up. Lonnie, did you have a question?
Okay. I did. So I think you just answered it, but I was gonna ask, like, can you, when you do the comparables, would you be like print out the pictures from MLS?
Yeah, so I usually don't print out all the pictures. I just do the appraiser's 1-page report. So you'll notice when you go in there and select to print or reports that there's an appraiser's 1-page. So I usually just include that. The appraisers have access to the MLS so they can pull up the remaining pictures of these properties to make sure that I'm being truthful in what I'm saying. So I usually let them do that. I just include that 1-page.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another example of one that I did for one over in the Stonegate neighborhood, 818 Stonegate Court. I put again that we were in contract, what we were in contract at, and that we received multiple offers the first weekend on the market. Notice I didn't say how many offers, so I probably only got 2 offers. Okay, if I get more than 2, I usually state. This one, I actually had the list of upgrades and updates, and some of them I had values for of what was spent on those updates. These sellers happened to buy the property and they lived in it for like 4 years. So I had the previous list of upgrades from the previous seller, and then I noted what they had done on the property. So I put upgrades. So instead of features, I used upgrades, and upgrades that were less than 4 years old. There was a main floor renovation to make the home open concept, recessed lighting installed, and home painted neutral colors throughout. Updates that were done 5 years before, and I just listed them out with the values. So if you have the values, include them in there. There was pool upgrades, hickory hand scraped hardwood floors for 30,000, pool converted to saltwater, new pool filter installed, heat pump installed to heat pool, variable speed pool pump. I think I listed that twice. Child safe pool cover can be walked on with storage bench to hide it away when not in use. Muriatic acid feed system, new landscaping, new backyard lighting, upgraded HVAC, upgraded bonus room lighting, installed built-in bookshelves in living room, new concrete near pool stairs, 4,200. So see all the ones I had numbers for, I put in what the cost of those were. And then upgrades that were done 7 years ago, full kitchen renovation for 32,000, master bathroom, guest bathroom, new dual pane windows at 22,000, tough shed installed. So again, I'm pointing out the features of well, I just did an upgrade list separate from the features so that the appraiser would know when the upgrades were done and what the value or the cost was of those upgrades, because they take those things into account when appraising the property. Okay, then I continued on with my features list, just like I did the last one. 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, 2,100 square feet, 2-car garage, RV parking, both in front and behind fence, right? Because you get different values for if your RV parking's in front of the fence versus if you can park it behind a fence. Large lot at 10,000 plus square feet, pool heater with variable speed pump, port location, beautifully landscaped front and backyards, all-weather patio cover, garden area prepped for use with grapes, hardwood floors, updated open concept kitchen, dual pane windows, wood burning fireplace, great room concept, separate family and living rooms, formal dining area, right? Updated bathrooms, renovated master with soaking tub, neutral paint colors, tile roof, upgraded lighting and fans, whole house fan, cathedral ceilings, large storage shed, right? So I'm just pointing out all those features that might entice a buyer to buy this property. Then I go through and do my summary. The subject property is a 2-story home located in the highly desired Stonegate neighborhood. The home consists of 4 good-sized bedrooms, a great room, and a bonus family room or den. The almost quarter-acre lot is fully landscaped with a heated pool with a child-safe cover. The size of the lot allows for room in the backyard, not just for the pool, but also for a large grassy area and garden area, as well as RV parking on the side of the home. The home has over $100,000 worth of upgrades and is in a highly coveted court directly across from the large Stonegate Park. All these factors came into play when the buyers were providing feedback about the property after showings and during the open house, as well as when offers were received. In addition, we have seen a large uptick in buyers in the market for homes since the holiday season is over, creating increased competition with a lack of inventory for buyers searching for homes. I have included comps from the surrounding area that are similar in lot size, all have pools, as well as one from the Browns Valley area to demonstrate the desirability increasing with the proximity to large parks. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Have a great day. So the Stonegate neighborhood's located on one side of the 80, and I'm going to pull one from Browns Valley that's on the other side of the 80. So I'm just justifying the value based on proximity to parks, right? I'm just trying to build my case for this property being in contract at $800,000, which we all kind of thought was a little bit insane and crazy. Okay, any questions about how I did the upgrades, the features, or the summary?
No.
Okay. Comparables. So I'm going to hand pick my comparables. 513 Boone sold in January for $830,000. This home is the closest sale to the subject property, as well as it also closed this month, which is a good indicator of the current market and is closely matched on both size of the home and on lot size. This home is slightly larger than the subject property. However, the subject had a slightly larger lot. Both homes feature a 2-car garage and RV parking, as well as pool and all-weather patio covers. The subject property had far superior updates and upgrades, as this home has the original kitchen with tile counters and the original cabinets, as well as original bathrooms and carpet and bathrooms. This home does have solar, whereas the subject does not. And this home isn't located near a park or in a court location, which most buyers find more desirable. Now, the thing that I did not point out on this property is this property did have a pool. However, it was a vinyl liner pool. It was not a plaster or built-in pool. So it was below ground, but it was a vinyl liner. And I did not point that out, although vinyl liner pools do not get as much value as a traditional in-ground plaster or gunite type pool. So I never pointed that out in here. I just pointed out that it had a pool. I did pull this 454 Stonewood, which was pending, and what date it went pending on for $800,000. This home is also located in the same neighborhood as the subject property and very similar in size and lot size, as well as both homes have pools. This home went pending at asking price back in January and is scheduled to close on 2/17. Although it's not a closed sale, it's a good indication of the price of the subject property's neighborhood. Comparatively, the subject property is far superior to this one, as the subject property is completely updated, whereas this home is all original windows, original countertops and cabinets, original bathrooms, carpet, and all but the living room. And this home does not have solar, or this home does have solar and the subject does not. So we're going to get dinged. If a property has owned solar and one doesn't, you're going to lose value for that. So I'm always pointing that out, right? So I'm building my case of, hey, this one's in contract for $800,000. And mine has far superior updates, which is going to give me value. And then you're going to take some away from the solar. So we're still going to land at $800,000. So I'm just trying to build my case for that. 890 Rio Grande. This home is larger than the subject property and has a smaller lot size. Normally, I wouldn't look at comps this much larger than the subject property. However, the neighborhood is very similar in desirability, and both homes are very similar in updates and upgrades. And both homes have pools. This home has solar, although leased, not owned, whereas the subject property has a superior all-weather patio cover. In addition, the subject property is located in a much more desirable position, with it being in a court and just across the street from the park, right? So I'm pointing those things out. And then we have the one over in Browns Valley that sold for $854,900. This home is a little further away from the subject property. However, the neighborhoods are comparable and the homes are similar in house and lot size. And this home is located very close to a park, very similar to the subject property. Both homes have similar interior updates on the main level, although the upstairs is carpeted and the master bathroom isn't as updated. Both homes have nicely landscaped yards, both have pools, and it should say as well as patio covers. This home does not have the same open concept design of the subject property, and this home does not have solar and a spa and a pool house. Oh, this home does have solar, a spa, and a pool house, right? So I'm assuming they're going to pull value away from that. But I'm just pointing out. So oftentimes if I've got unique properties, like I had one over on the North Alamo side that backed open space, there were no other properties that had sold that backed open space with like a 1/4 of an acre lot on that side of town. So I had to go to other places in town to pull similar properties, because if we just looked at the comps within a 1/2 mile of that property, we would have never gotten the value that we were in contract for. So this is how I build my case for being like, hey, the comps around it, they're not sufficient. And this is why, and here's the comps that I would hand pick, and here's why I would pick them. So I highlight all of that information. So again, with this one, would be included this information. I would include a copy of the contract and any counter offers, and I would include copies of the appraisal, the 1-page appraisal reports for the subject property and the 4 comps that I used on this package. What questions or thoughts do you have?
So for the comps, I think there's like a year apart difference in some of them. Like the Stonewood one was sold at the end of 2022.
This one should have been in contract in 21. I put a wrong date in there.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say.
Yeah, it would have been December of 21. It went into contract.
Okay.
This one was December. So they're all within a few months. I mistyped that.
Okay. And you're trying to find, you said in the other training, it's just normally, is it 3 months is how far you want it, or since it was sold?
Yeah, so
Or
when I
six?
first start looking at comps for an appraisal packet, I'm going to look in the subject property specific neighborhood first, and I'm going to go back about 3 months. So like
Okay.
we're in the middle of May right now, well, we're towards the end. I would go back and include February, March, and April in addition to May. So I just go back to the beginning of like the 3rd month back.
Okay.
And then look at those. And then if I need to find more sold comps, especially when there's lack of inventory and lack of sales, I'm going to make a choice to either go further out or further back in time. Oftentimes, depending on what the market's doing, I might go further back in time first, like up to 6 months. I rarely ever go beyond 6 months, but then I may start expanding out. Or if outside that specific neighborhood, the properties aren't similar to that neighborhood, then I may go and hand pick another neighborhood that's very similar and close by to this one. We run into that a lot we're looking at like townhomes or condos, because there's only like limited condos in one area. So we may need to go find like another condo area to compare the properties if there aren't enough sales.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like on this one, I ventured into Browns Valley to find properties that had pools that were similar in lot size and similar in property size, because that Stonegate neighborhood's kind of limited on sales. So I had to look elsewhere in similar ones, even going to Rio Grande. It's a little further away than I would normally look, but I know that the neighborhood's similar.
Okay. And for the 2 properties you showed us, did you end up appraising on what you wanted or what you guys set it at?
We did.
Okay. Yeah. Do all realtors do this? The appraisal? No. Okay. Got you.
They all should, and no, they don't. I actually got this. I sat in on a training one time with an appraiser, and they said, hey, we actually like it if you give us copies of the contract, and if you give us a list of the updates and upgrades to the property, like that helps us in our appraisal. And so after that, like I obviously went a little above and beyond what they had mentioned in the training. I find that anytime I do this, my properties come in at value.
Cool. Okay. And then for the features and upgrades and stuff, are you like having the sellers write that all down for you, plus the like upgrade prices and stuff, like during the listing appointment and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, so I don't oftentimes, I mean, unless they just did a bunch of upgrades, usually sellers don't know what was spent on the upgrades. So I very rarely get to include the prices there, although sometimes I will ask, oh, you just did that new bathroom remodel. Can I ask approximately how much you spent on it? Like I will ask that either in the listing appointment or even as we're working towards getting that appraisal done. This one happened that the previous sellers had put together a list and it was on the MLS. So I was able to go back to the old listing and pull that list off because they had just completed this stuff in the last 2 years before they sold the property. And they were trying to use this to justify the value they had originally listed this property for when buyers bought it. So I was able to go back in and pull these numbers. But yeah, definitely a conversation like, hey, I'm working on the appraisal packet to help us make sure that we appraise at value. I know you guys did a lot of these upgrades in the last like 2 to 3 years. Do you remember approximately how much you spent on replastering the pool? Or do you know how much it costs to upgrade all of your pool pumps or to install solar on the home or, whatever those were, to remodel your kitchen? Do you have an approximate value on that? And oftentimes they will, and that just it helps justify the value, especially when in the summary, then I mentioned that, hey, this home has over $100,000 worth of upgrades to it.
Yeah. Okay.
So I want to justify where that money went.
Okay.
So as you saw on the first one, I just had the features list.
Yeah.
It didn't have values on there. And again, I'm not necessarily even looking for what features the appraiser is going to give me value for. I'm just looking for, if I was a buyer, why would I buy this property? Like, what are the things that would entice me to buy it?
Right. Okay.
Yep.
So I had a question. So who would be, is it the seller or the buyer that would have to pay for the appraisal?
The buyer pays for the appraisal and the lender orders the appraisal.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and oftentimes the lender should put the listing agent as the contact for appraisal access. It's part of the reason I never mark my properties when I go to put them on the market in the MLS. I never mark them as vacant because I don't want the appraiser or somebody to assume it's vacant. They can just go and show it. So I usually don't mark it as vacant. I mark it as occupied, even if it is vacant, because I want them to schedule the appointment through me for any showings or the appraisal. So and mainly the appraisal. That way I have control over making sure I know when it's scheduled for and that I can get them this packet before they complete the appraisal.
Okay, so you said that's on the MLS, sorry. On the MLS here, that's when you're saying it's vacant?
I don't say it's vacant on the MLS. So that's one of the questions that you input into the MLS is whether it's who occupies it or whether it's vacant, and I never mark vacant.
Okay.
Any other questions? If you go to do your first transactions or whatnot, your first few listing transactions, and your mentor doesn't do this, don't hesitate to be like, hey, mentor, like, I know Amy has an appraisal packet thing that she does. I'd like to do that. Can I show you what she does? Or maybe can we ask her for help? And I don't ever mind helping put this together your first time.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
There's just so much. I'm like, oh my goodness.
You're like, I quit. No, it's all good. It's fun. I like doing this because I think it's like a challenge. Like, oh, especially, when the market's up and you're getting offers well over asking, like trying to justify it. Sometimes you look at it and you're like, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Throw it out there and see what sticks. So it's kind of fun, like pulling comps and figuring out, okay, well, how can I compare this, or which one helps add value and which one helps justify what we're in contract for? Because we really want to get it appraised for what we're in contract for.
Yeah.
So
I do have another question as far as because you had mentioned like sometimes if there's no homes within the area that you'll go to a different neighborhood. Like how far out would you go, or like what's the cap?
There's no necessary cap. So an appraiser is always going to look at like the last 3 to 6 months, and then really like in the half-mile radius. So you really want to look there first, and then like this one, this Rio Vista, the other one, the Rio Grande property. I have to imagine that one was more than a half-mile away. just based on like thinking
Okay.
about driving down Leisure Town. But so I'll just go out further to help justify. So there was one recently that we worked on. I was trying to think whose property that was, but there was just nothing. There was nothing similar to the subject property in the neighborhood that the subject property was located in. And so then I just start kind of expanding my radius, or like I said, I'll handpick, like on this one for Stonegate, like it's a pretty unique neighborhood, and there's some other neighborhoods that have the same desirability. Like when you start looking over at like that Rio Grande neighborhood or Browns Valley. So I started looking at specific neighborhoods, or like so there's no necessarily limit. I wouldn't go outside of the city. Like I wouldn't go if I had a comp or a property in Vacaville, I wouldn't go to Fairfield to pull a comp. It's got to be inside the city. But I will look at the whole city, and that's like the one on North Alamo. For the most part, you can usually find like your traditional properties, like this Heritage Lane one. It's just like your traditional track home. You should be able to find enough homes in the surrounding area to be able to pull comps for it. But like when you've got a North Alamo one that backs open space that has a 1/4 acre lot with a pool, like now you've limited your comps that are similar in size, lot size, pool, and location. So then I searched all of Vacaville and I said, okay, well, what lots do we have that are over like 0.2 acres? And let's start there. And which of those have a pool? So I'm trying to like limit it down and then justify why I would look at those properties. And I've done the same thing with other properties that like had the walking trail access next door to them, like find other properties that have the same access from somewhere else in the city to show how the value changes based on that type of access. So that's just what I'm looking to do. And the most part though, I'm trying to look inside the neighborhood first, but if I can't find something there to justify it, I will go out. And then in my packet, I outline why I chose that property and why it's further out or further back from as far as sale dates than what would typically be looked at.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
No.
Fabulous. Abby just posted in the chat box the little link to log your attendance. So please make sure to log your attendance. We are, in case you missed the announcement yesterday, I was like, what is today? We are moving to a new schedule next week. So that's gonna, it should be announced here soon. But we are moving to Tuesdays. Our training will be at 3 o'clock. And then on Wednesdays and Thursdays, it'll be at 9 a.m. We're trying to bump up our time just a little bit because we're entered into our summer months. So that'll be the schedule for June, July, and August and the end of May. That will kind of change that up just a little bit. Number one, I had a conflict on Thursdays at 4 o'clock. I'm butting my head up against my daughter's got an appointment in town at 5:30. So if I don't leave on time, we're late. So that's through the summer. So I had to change that one. So we moved that one to Tuesday. We bumped it to 3 o'clock, and then trying to move up our times a little bit on Tuesday and Wednesday just to help you guys be able to attend trainings and still go do whatever you want to do for your summertime hours. Hopefully that means prospecting and marketing and building your client base. But in case you want to go have fun, you still have lots of time to do that. So that schedule change will happen next week. And we're changing up our trainings as well. We're not rolling out the regular rev up trainings that we've done for the past 6 months. We're going to do some forms training. We're going to do so we're going to dive into like the car forms library once a week. We're going to have the lender is going to come once a month. The placer title is going to be joining us about once a month. And then we have some other trainings that were requested, filling in those holes and gaps. So we'll have we have some script training in there or some script practice type stuff. We'll be talking about different scripts and different situations. We've got some hands-on training we're going to look at Boomtown and do some other fun things as well. So that's coming up starting next week.
Yeah, awesome. Exciting.
Cool.
Thank you.
You are welcome. You all have a fabulous day, and we'll see you tomorrow at 4, where we'll talk about Jot forms and Google Forms and how to create those.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Have a fabulous day.
You too.
You too.
Thank you.